All right, so let's do this. The 100 greatest heavy metal songs of all time as chosen by Rolling Stone magazine. You could call it low-hanging fruit to do, some content about this, but hey, why not? I don't have any particular bias against Rolling Stone magazine. I mean, I suppose for me, it's something I would have seen a copy or two that belonged to my uncles in the early 80s, I guess 70s editions of it. It wasn't easy to get here in Ireland, I think. I suppose its fame is sort of broader than its readership. Maybe its main era was in the early 70s. I suppose didn't it inspire that Cameron Reed almost famous movie? I don't know. Based on, is it Lester Bangs? No, Lester Bangs was the editor. I don't know. Rolling Stone. I'm immediately suspicious. And so let's have a look at what they've decided are the top 100 heavy metal songs of all time. Well, first of all, the picture raises all sorts of issues. Firstly, it's obviously put together by somebody who doesn't know any of the people involved. I mean, of course, Lita Ford should be nowhere near any image of the 100 greatest heavy metal songs of all time, without a doubt. Ozzy, okay, but it's a kind of early period Ozzy, not even Sabbath. You've got Lars Ulrich and James Hetfield, so two members of Metallica. I presume whoever made the photo doesn't know they're both in Metallica. And I guess that's Living Colour, right? Again, shouldn't be near a picture of the 100 greatest heavy metal songs of all time. I think, what was the Living Colour album? Cult of Personality? Sort of funk rock. 1988, 89. Okay, but, So there you go. That's first off, my alarm bells are ringing, because don't forget, we are nerds and we are elitists and we take this stuff very seriously. So let's discuss their 100 albums of all time. If you did not know who I am, you just lighted upon my channel. I'm Alan, singer of Primordial, and say what you want about me, I do know a few things about heavy metal. You can put in the comments all the other things that you think. Number 100, Venom, Welcome to Hell. Well, if this is the only Venom song that is in the this top 100, then Welcome to Hell, I suppose it's realistically because well, you see, it depends on the criteria of greatest. What do we mean by greatest? Do we mean the greatest songs or the greatest impact or whatever? I suppose I should read this in their mission statement. Thousands of years after the Bronze and Iron Ages. Okay, very good. The true metal age don't have a century ago. Hair bands, Motley Crue, blah, blah, blah. Am I really going to read all this? Okay, I might as well. Black Sabbath convincingly evoked the true essence of evil with the lumbering three-chord opening guitar riff of the song Black Sabbath, consecrating the first pure heavy metal crusher. Well, I would say the first actual heavy metal band who embraced the name is probably Judas Priest. Of course, Sabbath is the first metal band, but I don't think they really embraced the name heavy metal. I mean, they're really a heavy rock band, Hit me up in the comments. But, retrospectively heavy metal, fair enough. Metallica revved up Priest tempos to give hairbangers cases of whiplash. Okay, hair bands like Motley Crue, Quiet Riot, not heavy metal, but although Quiet Riot have a song called Metal Health, what are you going to do? New metal, Korn, Slipknot, yeah, okay. I might as well, disclaimer, I'm not going to be able to comment too much on the musical nadir that I consider new metal to be, but I, of course, understand that some of it has to be in there. Death metal, doom metal, and black metal. Okay, I'm curious as to what black metal they've put in there. Intense declarations of individuality. To be a metalhead, you're rejecting normalcy. Okay, well, you're willing to believe in yourself and visit your dark side because you know the eardrum slaughtering decibels and aggressive lyrics are the crucible, nice, in which you feel something new and unique. Okay, it's telling us we're individuals. Years removed from its initial rumbles, metal is now a cultural force. Is it really a cultural force in 2023? Hard to say. I think the last time it was a cultural force, hard rock, heavy metal, was really new metal, sadly. I think it's quite removed from the mainstream. Anyway, whatever. So they discussed then Blue Cheer, all the way to Power Trip. Okay. Blue Cheer, yes, I suppose you have your proto doom bands like Blue Cheer. Anyway, number 100, Venom, Welcome to Hell. I mean, obviously if it's Venom, it has to be black metal, the song, which coined an entire genre. The Venom have better songs than Welcome to Hell. And oddly enough, if you listen to the Venom demos before this, they sound an awful lot more like typical new age heavy metal boogie rock. I'm not here to just discuss Venom. But, you know, obviously Welcome to Hell is one of the most important records of all time. And that's not just in terms of heavy metal. I mean, it was basically signified the end of the 70s. I think an awful lot of it to do with Welcome to Hell is the brick to the back of the head production, which is, if you listen to their demo from 80, the Impulse Studios demo from 80, you will hear a lot more of the quo. Anyway, Welcome to Hell, 1981. All right. I mean, if it's there and black metal isn't there, Planets Collide, Crowbar. Yeah, Crowbar, okay. This is a pretty cool song, Planets Collide. I think it's from Oddfellows Rest. Again, if this is here and Solitude Eternus isn't here, well then, you know, like I said, I'm not going to not be elitist about this. 99, Crowbar, okay. 98, Executioner's Tax, Swing of the Axe, Power Trip. I get why this is here. This is a sort of sop to, you know, modern thrash metal hardcore fans. I mean, Power Trip are a band I don't mind them. I mean, is it something I didn't hear in 1988, 89 from Crumbsuckers and Ludichrist, which is actually, I think, where they got their name from, or DRI? No, not really. It's not bad, thrash metal. Would it make the top 100 metal songs of all time? No, I wouldn't say so. 97, 43% Burnt, the Dillinger Escape Plan. I suppose culturally the Dillinger Escape Plan is a pretty important band. I saw them play live once somewhere in the early 2000s maybe, and the show was absolutely insane. Singer was off the charts. Now, how much the aggressive stage show sort of detracted from the music? Hard to say. I mean, it certainly was an intense, very, very aggressive show. We played in Poland with Primordial once with Megadeth in a football stadium or some sort of stadium, and Dillinger played, and they played right before, and the crowd literally gave them hell from the moment their backdrop went up, and they put it up to that crowd. They were fucking intense. Now, whether the song would make the 100 greatest metal songs of all time, I don't know about that. I don't think so, but okay. Yeah, okay, predictably, Girls' School, yeah, right. Look, I respect Girls' School. Even played with them a few times with Primordial. A couple of years ago, hung out with them. Awesome. There's a really cool documentary about Girls' School, which you can find on YouTube. It's a kind of UTV documentary from about 80, and it's really funny to watch. Gives you a really interesting snapshot of the way England was and how grim it was in 1980. Girls' School, total respect. Do they deserve to be in the 100 best metal songs of all time? Absolutely not. Not a chance, I'm afraid. 95, Davidian Machine Head. Not my era of heavy metal. I understand its importance. 1994 was really a time when I was completely immersed in, I suppose, black metal demo culture, and I see its importance. But again, it's sort of really not my thing. I think that heavy metal was in a strange period in 1994 because the old heavy metal bands, they're sort of the last gasp of heavy metal, and we're just on the cusp of this horrible sort of White Zombie style mid-90s groove metal thing. And Machine Head, even still being though thrash metal, sort of, them and Pantera were the only kind of remnants of kind of riffing that sort of remained in that mid-90s. Do they deserve to be in the top 100? Well, in the meantime, Helmet aren't metal. Important band, I suppose. I had a friend who really liked them in the early 90s. Should they be near the top 100 heavy metal songs of all time? Nope. 93, Cannibal Corpse, Hammer Smash Face. I respect Cannibal Corpse greatly. for longevity. But to be clear, if they're in the top 100 and Morbid Angel aren't, or Death aren't, it's just because this is the song from Jace Ventura. Culturally, I understand it. I mean, Cannibal Corpse is a band that I think in the early 90s, you never, as a death metal fan, you never would have mentioned them quite in the same stellar names as Deicide, Morbid Angel, Death, Immolation. But, yeah, on some level I can understand this. All We Are, Warlock. I mean, this is from Triumph and Agony. Warlock, actually, a funny story about Doro Pesh. She once gave me a little bitch slap in the face. I had to take a photograph with her and I was super drunk. And I got her hair caught in some little thing like this and she went like not a slap, just a gentle shove of, "You are a drunken moron, stop pulling my hair." Yeah, I mean, look, her voice, killer. Personally, I think you could have put Plasmatics there if you wanted to represent sort of 80s female rock or whatever. This should be in the top 100 metal songs of all time? Absolutely not, especially not if there's no Wasp or anything like this. 91, Pull Me Under, Dream Theater. I can't really comment too much on Dream Theater. I find it horrible. I don't think he's a good singer. I find their fans generally tedious. Again, if Rush aren't in the top 100, see, I haven't even prepped any of this, and Dream Theater are, well, then there's going to be trouble. In the wake of 80s trailblazers like Queensryche, Fate's Warning, Dream Theater, yeah, I don't know. There are people who swear by them. I get it. It's musician stuff. 90, Bring the Noise, Public Enemy featuring Anthrax. Okay, again, this whole first top 10 is an exercise in box checking and diversity. Bring the Noise, no, not for me. I get what Anthrax were trying to do, but also don't forget, Anthrax are partially to blame for new metal. They're partially to blame for rap rock. I mean, the horror of I'm the Man a couple of years before looms over new metal like a spectre, so I'm not going to be not elitist about it. I actually was quite a fan of not It Takes a Nation of Millions, In Fear of a Black Planet. I think that was a second Public Enemy, where she watches Channel Zero and stuff like that, which incidentally has a Slayer clip which introduced me to Public Enemy, and certainly the anger and sort of aggression that I heard out of them in 88, 89, 90. Yeah, I could resonate with that. Would it be in the top 100 metal songs of all time? No, definitely not. 89, Suicidal Tendencies, You Can't Bring Me Down. Okay, I get it. You Can't Bring Me Down is probably one of Suicidal Tendencies' top moments. Oddly enough, I was listening to them only 2 days ago in the gym, and I thought to myself, what a fucking terrible singer Mike Muir really is. It's just blah, blah. I get it. Super charismatic guy, and it works on something like Institutionalized. But as he tried to sort of breach out into sort of some of the stuff on Join the Army is a really weird record. It's like where Suicidal went, okay, we'll have a bit of that speed metal and put it into our music. But you take songs like Suicidal Maniac, I just don't know, doesn't work for me. 88, This Time, Life of Agony. Okay, more boxes ticked. I'm again, if Life of Agony here and Type O Negative aren't, forget about it. I find the Life of Agony style from back then was way too overwrought. The singing was too much for the music, and I think that Volbeat took quite a bit from them. 87, Slaughter of the Soul, At the Gates. Slaughter of the Soul. Okay, not Blinded by Fear. Is this songs or albums? This is songs. Okay. Because I think that is the title track of this album not... Oh, I don't know. At the Gates, yeah. I can't really complain too much about At the Gates. I think that Slaughter of the Soul is an absolutely killer album. Personally, I sort of prefer Red in the Sky and Is Ours, the sort of strange violin creaking over the music. It's pretty kind of dark and stuff. I think they probably mean Blinded by Fear, don't they? Okay. Killer riffing. I mean, at the gates, change the game here. 86, King's Crimson, 21st Century Schizoid Man. Well, that's an interesting choice. Yeah, King Crimson, I really like this. Starless. This sort of very dark, dissonant, almost proto-black metal, stuff like that. Can't really argue too much with King Crimson. I'm not sure if is it really heavy metal. I don't know. 85, There Goes the Neighborhood, Body Count. I'm afraid not. Body Count was a joke when that album came out. I mean, it was infamous because of the song Cop Killer. Controversial, all that kind of stuff. Lots of people liked it as an actual record. I mean, look, it's just a joke record, really, isn't it? But, you know, culturally, it was pretty important record at the time, set to the backdrop, I guess, of the LA riots and stuff. I totally understand its cultural significance, but really, when you boil down to what the music is, again, top 100 heavy metal songs of all time. Think about how much heavy metal there's been released over the last 40, 50 years, and you're going to put that in it. 84, White Zombie, nope, not a chance. This is just horrible 90s groove metal. Already I can tell this list seems to be by someone who, I'm not sure who made it, but there's not, I mean, the classic period of heavy metal, 78 to 88, lots of 90s stuff. White Zombie, no. World Eater, wow, not Cenotaph. World Eater, Bolt Thrower, I mean, yeah, this, I saw Bolt Thrower in 91 maybe, and they played World Eater into Cenotaph. What a, maybe, heaviest 10 minutes of your life right there. Yeah, I mean, Where I'm a Chaos is my favorite Bolt Thrower album. It's an absolute monster, absolutely ferociously huge record. I wouldn't argue with this. 82, Kitty, I mean, forget it. Get the fuck out of here. This is just, you know why this is in the list. Ahead of Bolt Thrower? Pff, no. I'm too old to be getting annoyed at these things. But if you're going to take, you know, our sacred ground of heavy metal, no. Kitty, get out of here. 81, Twisted Sister, we're not going to take it. No, this is just not. Again, if this is here and MANOWAR aren't in the list, or Accept aren't in the list, this is the first sort of 80s metal we get. I mean, I get Twisted Sister, I will say this, they were one of the most incredible live bands ever. And you've got to give them some sort of credit for the sticking power, and he's still one of the greatest frontmen I ever saw in the flesh, Dee Snider. But as an actual song, they have way better songs than this. I mean, The Kids Are Back, I Am, I Me, you know, Under the Blade, way better songs. 80, My Own Summer, Shove It, Deftones. 97, I think, is the lowest point for heavy metal, probably in the last 50 years. There's literally nothing came out in that year that meant much. Emperor, Destroyer 666, a few other things, but I get why this is here. Deftones are certainly not the worst defenders of new metal, but no. Balls to the Wall, Accept. Okay, a bona fide actual song that I would have included in heavy metal. Yeah, 1984. I mean, has one of the greatest guitar tones of all time. So iconic, Accept the two, burning flying V's, the Udo vocal thing. Yeah, I mean, it's Accept are one of the greatest heavy metal bands of all time. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I mean, that, Fast as a Shark with that, I guess Fast as a Shark is 82, so that would have been one of the fastest songs in 82 that anybody had heard yet. I think that was a huge influence on thrash metal, no doubt about it. 78, Converge. I like Converge. I have, I don't know, 1, 2, maybe 3 albums. Went to see them sometime in the early 2000s. I like them. Now, whether I would put the song in the top 100 of heavy metal songs of all time, certainly wouldn't be on my list, but I get the significance. 77, Jesus Christ Post, Soundgarden. Is this heavy metal or is it grunge? And the thing with an awful lot of those grunge bands is that they were metal guys in the 80s. Like, for example, Alice in Chains originally. Sorry, I'm popping out of my top here. Alice in Chains were Chains with a Z. That tells you all you need to know. They were a big hair glam rock band, even 3 years before. There's something strangely chameleon-like about that grunge scene. There was an awful lot of, I think, bands who kind of, changed their spots pretty quick when it started to get big. Soundgarden, I don't really have an opinion on. They're okay. Top 100 heavy metal songs of all time? No. Friday to Die, Bathory, yes, and more yes. It's a cool picture, of course. I've never seen that one before. I mean, this is the opening song from Blood, Fire, Death, 1988. I mean, this is the sort of perfect mixture of the old black metal and the epic Bathory. One of the greatest epic metal songs of all time. I've spoken about them before on the channel here and there. So we're at 76. Bathory, okay, I can agree with that. 75, Youth Gone Wild, Skid Row. I mean, look, I don't mind Skid Row. I thought the second album, Slave to the Grind, was a better record. I get its sort of cultural significance. See again? What are we talking about? It's your greatest impact culturally, or is it actually a good song? I don't really feel Youth Gone Wild is a great heavy metal song. Chopped in Half, Obituary, 74. Yeah, I mean, this is the sort of standout track from Cause of Death. It's the sort of hit. It's got that chunky rhythm. You can see why Hammer Smash Faced would have been picked. Chopped in Half is, I mean, again, if Obituary is here and Morbid Angel and Death aren't, yeah, we have a problem. Chopped in Half, can't argue with that. 73, Du Hast, Rammstein. Okay, interesting. Culturally, hugely significant. One of the greatest live shows I've ever seen. Absolutely amazing. Would I again put them in the top 100? No, but I could see why they would be included. 72, You Suffer, Napalm Death. I mean, really, this is like 2-3 seconds. What are we talking about here? Are we talking about songs that have cultural significance, or are they the greatest? I mean, would you put Heaven and Hell by Black Sabbath in, or would you put in You Suffer by Napalm Death? I mean, Napalm Death, you could pick Instinct of Survival or something like this or Siege of Power from Scum, and I would go, okay, I get it. Cultural significance, Napalm Death is huge. I'm still doing it now, but to put in a 1 second song just sort of seems to be taking the piss. 71, Mastodon. I like Mastodon. I think that they have brought a kind of new angle on, I hear Thin Lizzy, I hear 70s rock, I hear, lots of great traditional old 70s rock within Mastodon. Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Mastodon. I understand why this would be in someone's top 100, might not be in mine, but I get it. 70, Flying Whales, Gojira. Okay, I mean, look, if you're going to do the 100 heavy metal songs of all time, I suppose you're going to have to stop to different generations. Gojira is an interesting band. They've sort of mixed eco topics with some Morbid Angel riffs from Domination. Okay, I mean, would it be in the top 100 heavy metal songs of all time? If Battle Hymns isn't here and this is here. 69, Evil, Merciful Fate. Only at 69? Okay. Of course, Merciful Fate should be in the top 100 lists of heavy metal songs of all time. Don't worry, I'm going to get really tedious and nerdy about this. Of course, what did you expect? Evil, Merciful Fate. I mean, yeah, look, I Was Born in the Cemetery. I mean, this is the opening song from Melissa. Arguably the greatest heavy metal debut of all time. Merciful Fate, obviously are back now. Perhaps you've seen him. It's incredible. Yeah, of course this deserves to be in the top 100. Running with the Devil, Van Halen. Is Van Halen a heavy metal band? No, not really. Although the cultural significance and importance of that first Van Halen album cannot be overstated. I mean, they literally just took hard rock by the scruff of the neck in 1978 and just ran with it and took it somewhere new. All four of them stars in their own right. I will say that Van Halen probably had more cultural impact in the USA than in Europe in 1978. But I get it. It's Rolling Stone magazine. 67, Blind, Korn. again, it's not really for me to comment on. I'm getting the sort of sense that what we're picking here is sort of culturally significant metal songs, which I suppose wasn't really laid out exactly in the mission statement. Because I don't know. I mean, I will give Korn this. The sound at the time was something different. I'd never really heard a sound like that. I'm not a hater particular of Korn. I saw them in 1997 or 8 in Dynamo. They played the same year as Marilyn Manson, who just invited people to throw things at him, which they did. Tiamat, I think, headlined that day, if I'm not incorrect. But yeah, I don't really have a comment on this. Bang Your Head, Metal Health, Quiet Riot. Yeah, I mean, Quiet Riot's Metal Health album in '83 was the first ever, multi-million selling heavy metal record. It's not a great record. Metal Health is a good song. It's culturally significant and important because it sort of opened the gates, and all the labels then went looking for heavy metal bands. It was the first heavy metal album to top the Billboard charts at #1. So, is it a good song? It's an okay song. Over My Head, King's X. Wow, okay, this is an interesting choice. King's X is, I think, the band's band, or the band's band, or something like this. A good band. I can't pretend to be the most in-depth fan of their work, but certainly I could see why some people would put them in this list. 64, Black #1, Typo Negative. Okay, yeah, there you go. I mean, the perfect sort of gothic metal, mid-90s. What Typo Negative did is really interesting culturally and in terms of rock music, is they brought a kind of sexiness back to metal when it was all about, it was all sort of new metal, baggy pants and rapping stuff and this and that and the other. And they brought an echo of the Nephilim and Sisters of Mercy and stuff from the 80s into the 90s. And it was a strange sound because it was a sort of doomy, Sabbathy sound. Of course, I'm a fan of Carnivore. I wouldn't expect them to be in the list, but Typo Negative, I can't complain. 63, Summertime Blues, Blue Cheer. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just Theyre Cold, the first heavy metal band, but this is a cover of Eddie Cochran. Is Blue Cheer, is this one of the top 100 metal songs of all time? I don't think so. Are they important? Yeah, they're pretty important, I suppose. 62, Dragonaut, Sleep. Okay, interesting. Dope Smoker was a pretty big album at the time, and I think introduced that whole sort of stoner Sabbath vibe to 90s heavy metal. So I could see why this was included. 61, We Will Rise, Arch Enemy. No, definitely not. I wouldn't put Arch Enemy anywhere near the top 100 heavy metal songs of all time. Certainly not ahead of At the Gates. 60, People Equals Shit. Okay, Slipknot. 2001, not my generation. Not my generation at all. I understand that for many people, Slipknot were a gateway. Stay hydrated. Slipknot were a gateway drug to better bands. And people, their live show at the time was pretty extreme. Yeah, I mean, okay. Culturally, I understand why they would be in the list. Again, what's the differentiation between cultural and sort of a genuinely good song? 59, The Freezing Moon, Mayhem. Okay. Yep, I can't argue with that. The very first time I ever heard it, I suppose, is it on the, it's on must have been live in Leipzig, I guess. There were tapes knocking around of this Impressions of a Stained Mind compilation, is it? Which, if you have on vinyl, is a pretty fucking rare record. But there was two studio, the only time Dead got into the studio was to record, I think, 2 songs. One of which was Freezing Moon. What was the other? People are going to kill me in the comments, no doubt. But Freezing Moon, Mayhem, yeah, they've chosen the Mysteries version. Can't argue with this. Seesawing drums made for a grindcore monument. The black metal groups have aspired a copy of since. Grindcore monument. Nothing grindcore about Mayhem. 58, Refuse Resist, Sepultura. Not my Sepultura. My Sepultura is Beneath the Remains, Schizophrenia. I think Inner Self was probably, a more important song. Hard to say. Territory, Refuse Resist, the endless staple of covers bands throughout the world. And yeah, I could get why this has made somebody's list. Specifically somebody who didn't clock out of sort of mid-90s heavy metal. 57, My Dying Bride. Wow. Now there's something out of left field I didn't expect. The Cry of Mankind, the opening song from The Angel in the Dark River. Do, 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 do. Yeah, I mean, My Dying Bride, sort of them, Paradise Lost and Anathema, perfectly represent that sort of old doom death sound from the early 90s. This is 95. I saw them a few times around this period, and yeah, they were monumental, huge live. Saw them at Dynamo as well. This was a big record. Cry Mankind, I guess it was one of the first times a band had made something this long and gloomy, and it was a video, and I think Aaron was on a cross in the video. Drunk on Byron, Keats and Shakespeare. Moans like a lonely vampire. Yeah, I could see this. 56, Bark at the Moon. Yeah, okay. I can't really argue with this. Solo Aussie stuff. I've always been more of a solo below Dio guy than a solo Aussie guy if you have to choose. Well, why do you have to choose? Bark at the Moon. Yeah, I mean, look, it's a brilliant record. Jake E. Lee. I suppose it's interesting that it would be... sorry, I'm just reading this here. Yeah, it's interesting that you would choose a Jake E. Lee one over a Randy Rhoads song, unless there's another Randy Rhoads Crazy Train or something after this. But Bark of the Moon, yeah, I mean, it's a great song. 55, Caffeine, Faith No More. Caffeine is the heaviest and most hair-raising song from Angel Dust. Again, Faith No More, no, not my thing. I saw them in 89 with Prong. Was pretty cool, I suppose. Except they arrived really late to the gig, and made everybody was sitting waiting for them. And what we used to do was we used to walk back from, it was in a place called Dunleary, which is quite far out of Dublin, and we would have to wait for the last train to come back into the city. But we used to sometimes, if we missed it, walk all the way back in, which is, if you know anything about Dublin, is a long walk. And Faith No More made us miss that train because they just arrived. I think they were playing Top of the Pops the same night. I never liked it. I don't like this nasal vocal style. I think I went because I got in for free. Just not my thing. Anything with a sense of humor, nope, obviously. 54, Photograph, Def Leppard. Okay, so again, culturally, the significance of Def Leppard on this Pyromania, this huge single, this Photograph with the big chorus, I think inspired lots of bands. So we're talking really the greatest songs with cultural impact, because it's certainly not the best Def Leppard song. Rock of Ages is way better than this, for example, you know. I just want to kind of just go back over the mission statement at the start of this Top 100. This time we discussed the earliest metal songs going back to Blue Cheer's deafening cover. Bands who defined a metal ethos for the time they came out, even if their songs don't sound as intense as, say, Emperor. In the case of metal forebears like Led Zeppelin and even Black Sabbath, who have shunned the metal tag, we picked the most metal songs in their catalogue. Our contributors submitted ballots of their personal picks of the top metal songs. We tallied them up and we spotted a few pleasant surprises in how the ranking shook out. Right, okay. It still doesn't quite tell me, are these cultural or not? And I'll just say the word kitty again. So, of course, when you do a list like this, you open yourself up to the scrutiny of dickheads like me. But anyway, 53, 46 and 2, Tool. I'm not a Tool hater. I find sometimes they're fans. I used to DJ. Tool fans I find kind of what could be the most unbearable people you would meet DJing. They would always want to, if you were, I don't know, kicking up a storm, getting people enjoying their Saturday night, they would always want to ruin it by having you play Tool after you've just played Rock and Roll Damnation from Power Rage, and just like, dude, really? But they always just seemed kind of internal miserabilists who kind of wanted to ruin everybody's good time, and also this lecturing tone of, this is the best band in the world and don't you know? And then you would go, well, do you know Rush or King Crimson or no? But I understand the significance, and I'm not a Tool hater. I think actually musically they're all right. I would have maybe picked Sober instead of this song if I was going to pick one. Tool, yeah, fine. I mean, I could get it. 52, Deliverance, Opeth. Yeah, I mean, I saw Opeth maybe in 96 with Impaled Nazarene in London. And this is before they got big, I think just for Orchid. I think they'd just come off a tour in the UK with Morbid Angel maybe, and they hadn't quite hit it big. And yeah, they were cool. I like Michael a lot. He's a fucking good guy. And there is something completely individual about Opeth. It's not really my thing. Although during the lockdown I kind of refamiliarized myself with a few of their records, and I like a few of the last few. Yeah. I mean, look, realistically, whether they're particularly my band or not, I don't see any reason why Opeth aren't in there. 51, Slate Man, Godflesh. Yeah, I can understand the sort of mixing of the kind of heavy drum machine sounds, which I suppose was taken a little bit from Swans and a bit from 80s electronic music, and mixing it in with the grinding riffs. Street Cleaner is really, I suppose, was... well, would you put in that or this? Yeah, I get why Godflesh is in there. Again, so high, I don't know. I understand if you're trying to pick something that's a bit, that's a bit alternative, a bit different, why you would pick Godflesh. Again, would you put them in the top 100 songs of all time? Heavy metal songs of all time? I don't know about that. That brings us to, 50. Half of them done. 50. Procreation of the Wicked, Celtic Frost. Okay, I would have picked Dethroned Emperor, but I get it. Celtic Frost has to be in the list of the top 100 of all time. I mean, this is the progenitor of so many, so much extreme music. Hellhammer and Celtic Frost. To leave them out would just be ridiculous. This is an interesting choice from Emperor's Return. No, it's not from Emperor's Return, is it? It's from Morbid Tales. Procreation of the Wicked. Yeah, I mean, can argue with this. Heavier than Granite Riffs. Yeah, okay. 49, Ministry, Just One Fix. Ministry, not really my thing. I get why this could be in there, though. I guess I can see why it's important. Again, a cultural choice, I suppose, more than a... Is it a musical choice? Isn't this Just One Fix? Doesn't this have the guy from Butthole Surfers doing the ba-ba, ticka-ticka, over the kind of funny singing over it all? Walk in the Shadows, 48, Queensryche. Wow, 1986. This is a strange pick from Rage for Order. Yeah, I mean, I get Queensryche's importance. I mean, Operation Mindcrime was a huge record. And then that Silent Lucidity, wasn't that voted like they won a Grammy or a MTV award for that? The most requested song in 1990, well, pre-Nevermind years. Queensryche, yeah, never did a hell of a lot for me, although I liked them. I kind of prefer the EP beforehand. But okay, Queensryche. 47, Locust Star, Neurosis. All right, getting serious now. Yeah, I mean, look, from Through Silver and Blood, Locust Star is a huge, huge song. And to see Neurosis live at this time, wow, one of the heaviest things you've ever seen. Saw them a few times in the 90s, around this period as well. Yeah, I wouldn't really argue with what it was. 46, Night Goat, the Melvins. Confession, I don't think the Melvins meant as much in Europe as it did in the USA. Their records were hard to find growing up, and being a super serious black metal kid, I just found the sense of humor off-putting with the Melvins, although you can't really deny the riffs. They've got some big riffs. Would I put this above Celtic Frost? No, of course not. Anyway. 45, Symphony of Destruction, Megadeth. Of course, Megadeth should be in the top 100. They would probably have, if Peace Cells isn't in the top 10, we probably got a problem. Symphony of Destruction, yeah, I mean, look, this is, Megadeth figured out the fucking doo-doo, the tempo that was going to bring them into the charts. Symphony of Destruction is a really well crafted, really well executed song. Great singing, great, it's a dance floor filler. At a time when traditional heavy metal in 92 was sort of ebbing away. It's a great song. It's a great heavy metal song. 44, Green Machine, Caius. I'm a Caius fan. I remember my friend Phil, shout out to Phil, down the road. We were growing up into death metal and thrash together, late 80s, early 90s, and he disappeared off to America for the summer. I think he was about, we were 17 or 18. And he came back with the cassette of Caius, the gold cover, which is the logo on it, and we listened to that and the album after it, like to death that summer. I have a memory of listening to it. Yeah, I mean, I really like the first three Caius records. Again, I couldn't fathom putting them out of Celtic Frost, but you know. 43, Bring Me Back to Life, Evanescence. No, get the fuck out of here. Useless. 42, to say Evanescence and then say Emperor, leaves a poor taste in my mouth. Curse You All Men. Emperor, I have Inua Satana would have been, I suppose, a better choice for me. But Emperor, yeah, you can't argue about Emperor's cultural significance. They were, I admire the way they steered the ship. Ishan steered the ship of Emperor, and when it became clear that Emperor was sort of a done deal, he went off and did his own solo records. He didn't try and hoist them under the name of Emperor just for the bit of extra cash and that kind of thing. They've always had a kind of tasteful approach to what they've done as they've returned. Yeah, and Polite Gentlemen. Yeah. 41, Bleed, Meshuggah. I get it. Not my thing. Meshuggah, I totally understand the cultural and musical significance of what they were doing. The musicianship. I always found the singing a bit weird with Meshuggah. As if I sort of expected them to push the singing to at least a couple of other boundaries, but maybe that's part of the charm. Okay, 40, Victim of Changes, Judas Priest. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the first sort of twin guitar Priest songs that really sort of defines heavy metal. Side Wings of Destiny, which is one of the greatest artwork ever. Yeah, I mean, if this is here and Painkiller isn't, okay. But yeah, I mean, look, it's classic song, classic Priest. 39, For Whom the Bell Tolls, Metallica. Yeah, Metallica is crazy if you think about. Kill 'Em All is, first line of the first song, no life to leather, gonna kick some ass tonight. And in 1 year they've gone from that to Fade to Black and From Whom the Bell Tolls. From the Bell Tolls is a great lyric. It's mature, the singing, it's so heavy, the tone. I mean, I think Creeping Death, for example, is a better song, or Fire with Fire is a better song. But yeah, it's an amazing song. From the Bell Tolls, totally. 38, Killing the Neighbor Against the Machine. It's not heavy metal. I understand its cultural significance. Again, 92, set to the backdrop of the LA riots and all that kind of thing. But it just became a really, fuck you, I won't do the dishes. Fuck you, I won't, change my bed or tidy my room. And that's what we saw it as when we were. It was just kind of childish. I mean, hey, look, there's a sister in the list, but whatever. 37, Chop Suey, System of a Down. Of course, they wouldn't be near a list I made, but I get the cultural significance of System of a Down. They're an interesting and odd band. I think he's a really good singer. I like the slow songs. It's just the jokey stuff that I couldn't reconcile myself with. It seemed at the time that the only rock that was really getting any sort of popularity was a sort of slightly jokey, sort of. It was kind of goofy, but had humorless at the same time. I don't know how to describe it, but just not for me. 36, Rocky Like a Hurricane, Scorpions. Yeah, cool. Scorpions are there. This is, I guess, their biggest mainstream sort of hit from 84. They have many, many better songs than Rocky Like a Hurricane. It's, it's classic 80s, big chorus stuff. I really do like the sort of early to mid 70s Scorpion, early John Roth period, but I'm not one of those people who just only wants to hear, in trance or something like this. I'm really big fan of the late 70s, early 80s Scorpions. This was the kind of the last gasp of their fame and popularity, I guess. 35, Fade to Black, Metallica. Okay, they're just 2 after, 3 after, 4 after their previous entry. Yeah, I mean, this is a huge song. It's an important song. They literally 1 year from Kill 'Em All to this offered this ballad. It's still one of those tear jerkers. It's a really, really dark song. And it's a very important song. It was one of the first songs, I suppose, in '84. It has a depth and maturity to it that I think betrays their age, really. Yeah, okay. 34, Smoke on the Water, Deep Purple. Okay. Purple's weird for me. I like Purple, but never liked them as much as I did Sabbath or Zeppelin. This is just kind of picking their most famous song. I mean, there's other songs they have I would have thought were better, but yeah, I mean, you know, you can't argue Ritchie Blackmore. What he brought to rock was something very different because he was taking a lot from classical music, not blues. And without him, there'd probably be no power metal as you knew it. There wouldn't be any Yngwie. So, okay. 33, Lisa Ford. Get out of here. This is fucking rubbish. Just, no. 32, Mother, Danzig. I mean, Lita Ford, then Danzig. Yeah, Danzig has to be here. From the first album. Absolutely amazing record. First 4 Danzig, 4 of the greatest rock records ever made. Then it all fell off a cliff, but I mean, look, we got 4 of the greatest records you could ever imagine. And 88, yeah, I mean, the tone, I mean, it kind of sounds a bit like Ruben just left the room set up after the Cult Electric and just went, hey, go in and use their amp settings. But yeah, can't argue with that. 31, Heaven and Hell, Black Sabbath. Heaven and Hell is 2 ahead of Kiss Me Deadly. Yeah, of course, Heaven and Hell. The fact that it's only 30, I mean, this could be if this was number 1, I wouldn't argue with it. Heaven and Hell is one of the greatest songs ever. It's, you know, absolute pinnacle. Incredible production, huge. And don't forget 1980, you know, this is post-punk, when punk was supposed to have killed heavy metal. In 1980 you have Ace of Spades, Back in Black, Heaven and Hell. Moving Pictures, I think, is 80. Yeah, of course it didn't. Heaven and Hell, huge. 30, Enter Sandman, Metallica. I mean, it's from as a metal fan at the time, to watch Metallica go from your band to being everybody's band. I mean, that's the kind of elitist worst nightmare, isn't it? But we saw it happening with one. I'm not a hater of the Black Album. It's okay. I think there's better songs than this on it, though. But I understand, culturally significant, it just blew the doors wide open for heavy metal. 29, Walk, Pantera. Again, this groove metal thing is not my thing. I totally understand why they're in the list. But I suppose if you're a 90s metal fan, in 92, I mean, 92 I think is the year of Blazing the Northern Sky and that kind of thing. So for me, yeah, it doesn't really work, you know. 28, Holy War is Punishment Due, Megadeth. Yeah, I mean, look, you can't argue. Rust in Peace. My favorite Megadeth album is Peace Sells. But yeah, you can't argue with Holy Wars. It's just such a incredible slab of vital energy. 27, Living After Midnight, Judas Priest. No. I mean, I get the significance of it in a way because it's one of the thing about British Steel is that this dun 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 dun, this thing, the bar chord chunk, which isn't really there in their 70s stuff. Their 70s stuff is much more twin harmony stuff. British Steel is arguably ushered in the 1980s. You've got Grinder, you've got Metal Gods. It ushers in a different sound and a tone and a texture that thrash metal took from. And so the significance of British Steel you cannot overstate. But as a song, Living After Midnight is a kind of it and Breaking the Law, the sort of pop hits from the record. Cool song, yeah, of course. Best song from the album? No. 26, Am I Evil, Diamond Head. Nice, okay. Yeah, a bit of love to the Diamond Head. Love old Diamond Head. I mean, arguably Metallica made a sort of better version of it than Diamond Head did. But yeah, it's a brilliant song. And it's Diamond Head were kind of, they were taking that 70s big overblown, you know, the Kashmir sort of Zeppelin and trying to put it into new British heavy metal. Diamond Head, Am I Evil? Yeah, I can't argue with that. Rainbow in the Dark, Dio. Yeah, okay. I mean, I guess, to be fair to the list, it's got, you can see they're trying to cover all sorts of bases. And if this was a list that was made, let's say, 20 years ago, I doubt you would have seen Dio and stuff. Would have been all new metal garbage just in the list. So, I mean, I suppose it's got a bit of everything. It's hard to make a top 100 list, I suppose. I get that. And the compromises that you have to make. Dio, Rainbow in the Dark, yeah, I mean, look, these records, the first 2, 3, specifically 2, but I'll go to Sacred Heart. I mean, yeah, Rainbow in the Dark. I think there's better songs again on Holy Diver, but it's a great song. 24, South of Heaven, Slayer. I was thinking, yeah, we haven't seen or heard much from Slayer. South of Heaven, yeah, I mean, South of Heaven is the record by Slayer I go back to the most. It is the darkest Slayer record. It and Hell Awaits have this sort of evil energy to them. And South of Heaven is the first record. I always say this, Rain and Blood is the first record whereby people outside of metal heard it and kind of, it was impossible to laugh at. In a sense, you couldn't poke fun at Rain and Blood. It was so brutal and so violent. And it was one of the first records which didn't have a kind of goofiness that, some people would have said, the kind of David Byrne type talking cunts of the world would have said, heavy metal is this, that, and the other, with its spandex and its gauntlets and its, sort of camp machismo. Rain and Blood was the first record that just went bam, fuck you. I think that you just cannot really criticize. Heaven is a strange move afterwards, and there's an alternate universe where Slayer followed South of Heaven and that route you hear on the song Seasons in the Abyss, instead of going into and then the kind of angry stuff that followed. 23, Shout of the Devil, Motley Crue. Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of Shout of the Devil. Is it heavy metal? No, not really. Great record though, and great sound, huge big tone, huge big drum sound, and I think this was a great big cultural shift of kind of post Quiet Riot, post Photograph Def Leppard cultural shift, where new metal or hair metal, whatever you want to call it, was just about to just explode in the world. 22, Cold and Mosh, Anthrax. Anthrax above Slayer? No, I'm afraid not. Among the Living, I mean, you'll have watched me do videos with Joe from Gambom, all-time classic for him. For me, Anthrax, I would never have put them with Megadeth, Slayer, Metallica. But I get it. 21, The Trooper, Iron Maiden. Okay, yep, can't argue with that. I mean, oddly few Maiden songs so far. But you can't argue with Peace of Mind. I mean, I think Maiden have better songs, and it's a kind of overplayed one. But I guess I understand why it was picked, yeah. 20, Round and Round, Rat. Rat is ahead of Iron Maiden. Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, I like the first couple of Rat albums. I'll even go to Invasion of Your Privacy and stuff. And I think that the first EP, whatever you want to call it, has got some sort of speed metal-y, heavy hair kind of riffs. Quite like it. Good song, great tone, DeMartini and Crosby. It's cool. I like it. Now, whether it should be ahead of Heaven and Hell and The Trooper? No, not really. 19, Peace Sells, Megadeth. Okay. Yeah, I mean, can't argue about that. Again, that's my favourite Megadeth album. Why they have to persist with some of the stupid covers, I ain't superstitious. This is just totally not needed. I think I prefer My Last Words and, Good Morning Black Friday and stuff. But yeah, Peace Sells. Also, absolutely incredible lyrics. Great lyrics that still somehow have resonance. 18, Immigrant Song, Led Zeppelin. The blueprint from which Manowar literally took everything. Kill with power. I think they sort of took a lot from Immigrant Song. Yeah, I mean, Immigrant Song is a kind of proto-metal song, without a doubt. Is it a heavy metal song? Well, I don't know. Back in Black, AC/DC. Yeah, I mean, it's getting squirrely now. Of course, AC/DC. I mean, but if you're going to pick AC/DC, you're sort of opening the door to an awful lot of things. Again, 1980, you know, punk was supposed to have killed hard rock. 1980 produces one of the biggest selling albums of all time. So, you know, obviously it didn't. It's just revisionist bullshit. Yeah, I mean, look, Back in Black, what can you argue about? It's one of the most flab-free, muscular records of all time. Brian Johnson produces a masterful performance. This is perhaps the greatest hard rock vocal performance of all time. 16, Hallowed Be Thy Name, Iron Maiden. Okay, there'd have been trouble if this wasn't in there. This is one of the greatest epic metal songs of all time. It's just absolutely fucking brilliant. And a vocal powerhouse. This is Bruce Dickinson laying down the law, going, hey, forget about that guy previous. You know, it's masterful. And if you watch the 82 version, the one they didn't release, the Hammersmith Odeon show, because it was too dark, I think. Steve thought it was too dark. This show, one of the greatest video shows that there is. 15, Angel of Death, Slayer. Yeah, of course. I mean, can't argue with this. It's just about as violent as it gets. Rain and Blood, still one of the most, if not the most extreme metal album of all time. Yeah, it has to be there. 14, Stargazer, Rainbow, nice choice. Yeah, huge record, Cosy Powell there. I mean, this is Blackmore and Dio and at their height, their peak. It's just an absolutely incredible song. And if I could have that drum sound for every Primordial album, I would gladly have it. Thank you very much. 13, Paranoid, Black Sabbath. Yeah, I mean, look, this is not a great Black Sabbath song. It's just got the gong, 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 which became the blueprint for lots of heavy metal. Yeah, it's an important one. Not at all one of their greatest songs. Totally understand why, I suppose, as about, you know, reassessing what's happening with this list. You can sort of see why it's culturally significant. 12, Cult of Personality, Living Colour. No, certainly not. You know, I get the cultural significance of a band of you know, black dudes playing heavy metal, but it's not really heavy metal. It's kind of funk rock. 1988. Yeah, I mean, my mate had this record and we used to listen to this. And like I said, he was into LL Cool J and Public Enemy and stuff. I remember it at the time. Unfortunately, my brain associates it with the horror of Red Hot Chili Peppers and Fate No More, and that you would have this above South of Heaven, I think, no. 1 by Metallica. This song is so played out. I'm so tired of it. It used to be every weekend in the DJing in Dublin in the 90s. I get it because, you know, it was the first video Metallica had made. They sort of were laid out of the gate in making videos. And I remember watching it on MTV at the time, and it was just bizarre. I was like, wow, they're showing one of our bands. And the video was dark, and it was angry Hetfield, and which is the Hetfield you want. And I get it. 10, Run to the Hills, Iron Maiden, same as Hallowed Be Thy Name. Yep, this is the shuffle beat. It's, according to the internet, Number of the Beast has sold 18 million copies with almost no radio play, no support from the mainstream. I'd like to know how many copies physically that is, but I would say it's at least 12, 13, 14. Martin Birch, incredible production. Yep. Holy Diver, 9, Dio. Yeah, I mean, you can't really argue with Holy Diver. It's an absolutely classic song. Again, like I said, you can understand. It's a complicated thing to balance the cultural significance and the songs. I mean, like, just going back to 12 to Living Colour. I mean, I understand the cultural significance. It's just, you know, is it a great song? 8, Raining Blood, Slayer. Okay, yeah. I mean, look, you can't argue with this. Again, it's an odd thing making a top 100 because do you end up packing so many songs by the same band in the top 10, or do you try and give it more, you know, sometimes when we used to make lists when we were kids or that kind of thing, we would say, oh no, you're only allowed to pick one per band. I suppose that's ridiculous though, isn't it? 7, Iron Man, Black Sabbath. Okay. I mean, look, I can't really argue with any Sabbath song being in there. Iron Man, yeah, I mean, War Pigs probably would be better. Crazy Train, Ozzy, yeah, I mean, again, I don't really like this song. I find it a bit crazy. I read this thing that Ozzy was so out of it during the recording sessions that, what's the keyboards player's name? Bass player's Bob Daisley. I can't remember the keyboard player's name. Lee Chris Lake, no, he was on drums, wasn't he? I don't know. Anyway, that he used to do the vocal lines on the keyboard and write them, because Ozzy was, to kind of write them during the rehearsal because he didn't have his head together. Ah, okay, here we go. 5, War Pigs, Black Sabbath. Yeah, can't really argue with that. 4, Breaking the Law, Judas Priest. I mean, no Painkiller in this top 100, and also no Motorhead so far, which I find kind of ridiculous. I mean, if you're going to put in 3 or 4 Metallica or Slayer songs, you surely have to have more than 3 Judas Priest songs. Yeah, okay. Breaking the Law, yeah, I get it. It was Priest breaking out into making a chart song. Again, Painkiller isn't in the top 100. Arguably the greatest heavy metal song of all time. Also, No Death. No Morbid Angel, but Cannibal Corpse. Doesn't make sense. 3, Ace of Spades, Motorhead. Okay, yeah, I mean, look, you can't argue with that, can you? It's one of the biggest rock songs. Something going on outside. We'll ignore that. Yeah, I mean, you can't argue with Ace of Spades, can you? I mean, it's just a monolith. 2, Master of Puppets, Metallica. Yeah, I mean, this is sort of post-Stranger Things choices. I mean, it is Metallica's sort of monolith from an album that's an absolute, complete and utter masterpiece. Yeah, hard to argue with. I mean, it's an absolutely incredible song. 1, Black Sabbath, Black Sabbath. Yeah, okay. I mean, boom, boom, boom. I mean, to me, the beauty of Black Sabbath is it sounds a note of doom. For the end of the 1960s, it's like, fuck your hippie bullshit and your idealism. This is darkness. And that is set the tone for heavy metal, and I think set the tone for what was to come after that. And I think for heavy metal nerds, I think it represents everything you want to know in those opening 3 notes. So, what do I think of the Rolling Stones Top 100? I mean, obviously, if you post... I mean, look, I'm just scrolling through it. The Round and Round is here, and Death aren't here. And there's no Morbid Angel, Chapel of Ghouls. I mean, there's not much of a represent from thrash metal. There's no Sodom, Creator. I guess there wasn't going to be. You were going to get your Celtic Frost. To just represent that, there's a lot of heavy metal that's missing, and a lot of stuff that is clear, choices to fit into our modern sort of diversity narrative, which, of course, fundamentally, if you're going to pick the greatest and make that statement, then you can't. The balance of those things is difficult. You can't do those same 2 things at the same time, because then you just end up including things that aren't great songs for their purely to as a sop to diversity, and I just don't think that's how you make a list like this. But it's not bad. It's not bad. And is it low hanging fruit to make some content with? I suppose it is. But like I said, if you're a heavy metal nerd, a heavy metal elitist, a heavy metal snob, then you put a list like that out and people are going to comment on it. There's tons of things missing. There is, of course, and it's difficult to give due respect to if you make a compromise list like this with, say, you've got 10, 12, 20 different people all throwing in their bits and pieces, there are people who are going to make political decisions, as opposed to musical decisions, or cultural decisions as opposed to whether something is a great song or not. I mean, scrolling through Queensryche, okay. But again, you kind of set the tone when you look at, you're going to have to go and look at the main picture yourself, and you think to yourself, really we just put Lita Ford in the middle of the picture. I mean, immediately you're going to draft derision from heavy metal fans. But there you go. Rolling Stone, top 100 heavy metal songs of all time. It's not bad. It's not as bad as it could have been. It's not as bad as it would have been, certainly, if this was done in the early to mid 2000s. It would have just only been, I'm pretty sure, System of a Down and whatever else. It's got some trad metal in there. But, you know, I understand the complicated nature of making a top 100. So, there you go. That's my heavy metal nerd. If you sat through all of that, me whinging and complaining, you are a person of strong character. And I do apologize for making your Monday morning that little bit gloomier. But that's my place in life. Over and out. Next time.